Park Yuna pressed her face against the observation window and watched the jungle moon spinning slowly below. Helix Prime was beautiful. Green forests covered everything, and strange clouds moved between the giant trees. She had waited 3 years for this assignment. Now she was finally here. "You are not listening," said Doran, his 8 arms moving with frustration. The Talavian researcher stood behind her, his wet skin shining under the station lights. "I said the Venom gliders are Category Black. This means no contact. None. Ever." Yuna turned and smiled politely. "I heard you. Observation drones only. 17 researchers are dead," Doran continued. 3 different species. All of them thought they knew better. All of them are now buried on their home worlds. He pointed one long finger at the screen showing the jungle below. "Those creatures kill with a single scratch. Their poison stops your heart in minutes. There is no cure." Around the briefing room, other researchers nodded seriously. They came from many worlds. Some had scales, some had fur, and some had no faces at all. But they all shared the same expression: fear. Yuna looked back at the screen. A camera drone was showing a group of Venom gliders resting in the high branches. They were small, about the size of earth squirrels, with thin wings that caught the light like rainbow glass. Their eyes were large and dark. Their tails wrapped around branches as they slept. They did not look like monsters to her. Lieutenant Tim Taiho leaned against the wall near the door. He was the human security officer on the station, and he had been watching Yuna with careful eyes. He knew that look. He had seen it before on soldiers who were about to do something stupid. "Dr. Park," he said quietly, "I hope you are planning to follow the rules." Yuna smiled at him. "Of course, Lieutenant." She was lying. That night, Yuna could not sleep. She lay in her small room and stared at the ceiling. The Venom gliders filled her thoughts. She kept thinking about what she had seen in the footage. The way they groomed each other. The way the mothers held their babies close. The way they played in the morning light. These were not the behaviors of monsters. These were the behaviors of family. At midnight, she got out of bed. She put on her field suit and walked quietly through the empty hallways. The station was sleeping. Only the soft hum of machines filled the air. She found the shuttle bay unlocked. A small transport pod sat waiting. She climbed inside and started the engine. 20 minutes later, she was standing on the jungle floor of Helix Prime. The air was thick and warm. Strange sounds came from every direction. Insects buzzed, animals called, and the wind moved through leaves the size of doors. Yuna turned on her flashlight and began walking toward the area where the gliders nested. She was not planning to touch one. She just wanted to see them up close. She wanted to understand them. The forest was alive around her. Glowing mushrooms lit the ground. Small creatures ran away from her footsteps. Above her, the canopy blocked the stars, but patches of moonlight fell through like silver rain. Then she heard it. A small sad sound. A cry. Yuna stopped walking. She listened carefully. The sound came again. It was coming from somewhere nearby. She followed it slowly, pushing aside giant leaves and stepping over twisted roots. In a small clearing, she found the source. A juvenile Venom glider lay on the ground. Its wing was torn and bleeding. It was trying to fly, but it kept falling. Each time it fell, it made that sad crying sound. Yuna knew she should walk away. She knew the rules. She knew 17 researchers were dead. But she also knew this baby would die before morning if no one helped it. She took a deep breath and knelt down slowly. The glider saw her and froze. Its small body trembled. Its tiny spines rose along its back. "It is okay," Yuna said softly. "I am not going to hurt you." She stayed very still. She kept her breathing slow and calm. She did not move toward the creature. She just waited. Minutes passed. The glider's spine slowly lowered. Its trembling stopped. It looked at her with those big dark eyes, and something changed in its expression. The fear faded. Yuna held out her hands, palms up. She did not grab. She did not reach. She just offered. The baby glider chirped once. Then, slowly, it crawled into her hands. Yuna felt her heart pounding. She was holding a Venom glider. Its tiny claws rested on her skin. Its tail wrapped around her wrist. And it was not attacking her. It was not poisoning her. It was purring. She lifted the creature carefully and examined its wing. The tear was not too bad. With some care, it would heal. She held the glider against her chest and felt its small heart beating fast. "I am going to call you Bomi," she whispered. Back on the station, alarms started screaming. Taiho was the first to see her biosign spike on the monitoring system. He jumped out of bed and ran to the control room. The screen showed Yuna's location on the planet's surface. Her heart rate was elevated. Her stress hormones were high. "She went down there," he said, his voice tight with anger and fear. "She actually went down there." He called for a rescue team. 6 soldiers joined him in the shuttle. They flew down to the surface at maximum speed, expecting to find a body. What they found was something impossible. Yuna sat in the clearing, cross-legged, with a Venom glider curled in her lap. The creature was making a soft rumbling sound. It looked comfortable. It looked happy. Taiho approached slowly, his weapon raised. "Dr. Park, do not move." "I am not moving," Yuna said calmly. "And please lower your gun. You are scaring her." "Scaring her?" Taiho stared at the creature. "That thing should have killed you." Yuna looked down at Bomi and smiled. "She is not a thing. And she is not a killer. She is just a baby who was hurt and alone." She stroked the glider's back gently. All she needed was someone who was not afraid. The soldiers stood frozen, watching something that should not be possible. A human holding a Venom glider, completely unharmed. Doran's voice came through the radio, filled with shock. "Bring her back immediately. And bring the creature. We need to understand what is happening." Taiho lowered his weapon slowly. He looked at Yuna with new eyes. She was either the bravest person he had ever met, or the most foolish. Maybe both. "Can you walk?" he asked. Yuna stood up carefully, still holding Bomi. "Yes, but she comes with me." Taiho shook his head, but did not argue. They walked back to the shuttle together, and the Venom glider never once tried to hurt anyone. The impossible had happened, and everything was about to change. The quarantine room was cold and white. Yuna sat on a metal bed with Bomi still in her arms. Through the thick glass window, she could see researchers watching her like she was a strange experiment. Medical machines beeped around her. Cameras recorded everything. Doran stood on the other side of the glass, all 8 of his arms crossed. "This is impossible," he said for the 10th time. "The toxin should have killed you within minutes. Your heart should have stopped." "But it did not," Yuna replied calmly. She scratched behind Bomi's ears, and the glider made a happy sound. "She never tried to poison me. She trusted me." "Venom gliders do not trust," Doran argued. "They attack. It is their nature." Yuna looked up at him. "Maybe we do not understand their nature as well as we think." The door to the observation room opened, and a human woman walked in. She had short hair and tired eyes, but she smiled when she saw Yuna through the glass. "Still getting into trouble, I see," she said. Yuna's face lit up. "Myra." Joe Myra was a biochemist and Yuna's oldest friend. They had shared a room at university years ago. When the station sent an emergency request for a specialist, Myra had come immediately. They told me you caught a Venom glider with your bare hands, Myra said, shaking her head. I thought they were joking. I did not catch her, Una corrected. She chose me. Myra looked at the creature in Una's arms. Bomi's wing was now wrapped in a small bandage. Her dark eyes watched Myra with curiosity, but not fear. I need blood samples from both of you. I want to understand why you are still alive. For the next 3 days, Myra ran test after test. She analyzed Una's blood, her sweat, her skin cells. She studied Bomi's toxin glands and behavioral patterns. She barely slept, living on coffee and determination. The results shocked everyone. Humans produce a chemical in their sweat, Myra explained to the gathered researchers. The meeting room was full. Even Council Envoy Silith had joined, her insect-like body clicking with impatience. This chemical is very rare in the galaxy. Only humans make it in significant amounts. What does this chemical do? Taiho asked. He stood near the back, arms folded. To the Venom gliders, it smells like submission. Like family. Myra put up a diagram on the screen. When Una approached the juvenile, her scent told the creature that she was not a threat. She smelled like a member of the pack. Doran's eyes widened. That is why it did not attack? Partly. But there is more. Myra changed the image. Look at this data. Every species that has encountered Venom gliders approached with fear. High heart rates. Stress hormones. Quick movements. The gliders sensed danger and defended themselves. But humans approach differently? Silith asked, her voice sharp and clicking. Una approached differently, Myra corrected. She stayed calm. She moved slowly. She did not run or fight. Her body language told the glider she was safe. She smiled at her friend through the screen. Una was patient, and patience saved her life. Silith stood up, her wings buzzing with irritation. This is unacceptable. The human broke every protocol. She endangered herself and the mission. She should be removed from this station immediately. With respect, Envoy, Taiho said. Dr. Park has achieved something no one else has done in 50 years of research. Maybe we should listen to her instead of punishing her. The argument continued for hours. Some wanted Una sent home. Others wanted to study her further. Doran remained quiet, thinking deeply about everything he had learned. Meanwhile, in the quarantine room, something strange was happening. A second Venom glider appeared at the window. It was larger than Bomi, with darker coloring and longer wings. It pressed itself against the glass, making soft calling sounds. Bomi responded, chirping back through the barrier. The guards raised their weapons, but Una waved them down. Wait, just wait. She watched the two gliders communicate. The larger one scratched at the glass gently, not with aggression, but with longing. It wanted to reach Bomi. It wanted to reach Una. I think that is her mother, Una said softly. Word spread quickly through the station. Researchers crowded the observation deck to watch. A wild Venom glider had traveled from the surface, found the station, and located the quarantine room. It had tracked its child across space, and it was not attacking anyone. Doran finally broke his silence. She followed the scent, he said, wonder in his voice. She tracked her baby's scent all the way here. But she's not afraid of us. She is not attacking. He looked at Una with new respect. You did something. You changed something. Una looked at the mother glider pressing against the window. She saw the desperation in those dark eyes. She saw a parent looking for her child. Let her in, Una said. What? The word came from several voices at once. Let her in. Let her see that Bomi is safe. Let her see that I am caring for her daughter. Una stood up, still holding Bomi. If we want to understand these creatures, we need to stop treating them like monsters. We need to start treating them like the intelligent beings they are. Silith clicked angrily. This is madness. You will get everyone killed. But Dawn was looking at the data on his screen. The mother glider's vital signs showed no aggression. Her toxin glands were inactive. She was not preparing to attack. She was waiting, hoping. Open the window, Doran said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the Talavian researcher. Doran, you cannot be serious, Silith protested. I have been studying these creatures for 20 years, Doran replied. I have never seen one behave this way. Something has changed, and I want to know what. He nodded to the guards. Open it, slowly. The guards hesitated, then obeyed. A small section of the window slid open, creating a gap just large enough for the glider to enter. The mother flew in immediately. She landed on Yuna's shoulder and wrapped her wings around Bomi, making soft sounds. Mother and daughter touched foreheads and chirped together. Then the mother looked at Yuna. Their eyes met. And slowly, carefully, the mother glider reached out and touched Yuna's cheek with her small paw dot. It was a gesture of thanks. Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. You are welcome, she whispered. Your daughter is safe. The cameras captured everything. Across the galaxy, news stations began playing the footage. 2 Venom gliders, the deadliest creatures known to science, sitting peacefully with a human woman. Yuna looked at Doran through the glass. I want to go back down there. I want to study them properly. Not from drones. Not from safe distances. I want to walk among them. Doran was quiet for a long moment. Every instinct told him to refuse. Every training manual said this was wrong. But he had just watched a mother thank a human for saving her child. I will arrange the mission, he said finally. But I am coming with you. If you are going to change everything we know about Venom gliders, I want to see it myself. Yuna smiled. The impossible was just beginning. Never touch a Venom glider. Part 3. The jungle floor was dark and wet. Giant leaves dripped water from the morning rain. Strange birds called in the distance. Yuna stood at the edge of the camp, watching the forest wake up. 3 weeks had passed since they landed on Velix Prime. The mobile research camp was small, just 4 sleeping tents and 1 equipment shelter. They called it Nest, a name Yuna had chosen because it felt right. Tejo walked up beside her, holding 2 cups of hot tea. He handed one to Yuna. You are up early again. I could not sleep, she admitted. I keep thinking about what we might find today. From inside one of the tents, Bomi emerged, followed by her mother. The 2 gliders had become permanent members of the team. They slept in Yuna's tent, curled up at the foot of her sleeping bag. Other researchers had called this insane. Yuna called it trust. Sergeant Beek Jiwoo stepped out of the medical tent, yawning. The field medic had been nervous at first, worried about treating humans so close to deadly creatures. But watching Yuna interact with the gliders had slowly changed her fear into curiosity. The mother's wing is healing well, Jiwoo reported. The infection is completely gone. The mother glider, who Yuna called Haru, had arrived at the station with an old injury. Yuna suspected she had been hurt by a drone years ago. With proper care, she was now stronger than ever. Mira was the last to wake up. The biochemist stumbled out of her tent, her hair messy and her eyes barely open. Coffee, she mumbled. Please tell me someone made coffee. Darn emerged from the forest. The Talavian researcher did not sleep like humans did. He spent his nights observing and recording. His 8 arms held various instruments and notebooks. I have documented 17 different vocalizations so far, he announced. The gliders have a complex communication system. I believe it may actually be a simple language. Yuna smiled. I told you they were intelligent. Their work was slow and careful. Every day, Yuna ventured deeper into the territory, always with Bomi and Haru accompanying her. The other gliders watched from the trees. At first, they kept their distance. But as days passed, they grew curious. On the 10th day, a young male glider approached the camp. He landed on a low branch and watched Yuna cooking dinner. She ignored him, moving calmly and slowly. After an hour, he flew away. On the 11th day, he came back with 2 friends. By the end of the 2nd week, a small group of gliders visited the camp every evening. They did not come close, but they no longer ran away. Progress was measured in centimeters of trust. Yuna learned their body language. Folded wings meant curiosity. Extended spines meant fear. Rhythmic tail movements meant contentment. She learned which sounds meant warning and which meant greeting. She began to understand their world. They are matriarchal, she explained one night around the campfire. The females lead. The males protect. Children stay with their mothers until they are old enough to start their own families. Like many Earth species, Myra noted. Exactly. They are not so different from us. Yuna looked into the dark forest. The attacks on researchers were not random. We were invading their nests. We were threatening their children. They were protecting their families, just like any mother would. Doran made a note in his journal. 20 years of fear, and the answer had been so simple. They had been the invaders. The gliders had been the defenders. On the 18th day, everything changed. Yuna was walking through a section of forest she had not explored before. Bomi rode on her shoulder, and Haru glided overhead. The trees here were older, their trunks wider than houses. The air felt different, heavy with something ancient. Then she saw her, the elder. She was 3 times the size of normal gliders. Her wings were scarred and torn in places, marks of decades of survival. Her eyes were pale with age, but they burned with intelligence. She sat on a massive branch, watching Yuna approach. Around her, dozens of gliders waited in silence. This was the heart of the territory, the center of the nest, the throne room of the queen. Yuna stopped walking. Her heart was pounding, but she forced herself to stay calm. She remembered the rules she had learned. Slow movements, low posture, no direct staring. She sat down on the forest floor. Bomi chirped nervously on her shoulder. Haru landed nearby, also watching the elder with respect. The whole forest seemed to hold its breath. Yuna waited. 1 hour passed. Then 2. Then 3. The sun moved across the sky. Shadows shifted and stretched. Yuna's legs went numb from sitting, but she did not move. Back at the camp, Taiho grew worried. He wanted to send a search party, but Dorn stopped him. Wait, the Telavian said. Let her try. 4 hours. The light began to fade. Then the elder moved. She spread her massive wings and glided down from the branch. She was silent, graceful despite her age. She landed in front of Yuna, close enough to touch. Yuna did not reach out. She did not move at all. She simply looked at the elder with respect and waited. The elder studied her for a long time. She sniffed the air around Yuna. She examined her clothes, her hands, her face. She made soft sounds that Bomi answered in kind. Then, slowly, the elder did something no researcher had ever witnessed. She folded her wings back and exposed her belly. It was the most vulnerable position a glider could take. Complete surrender. Absolute trust. Yuna understood the gift she was being given. Very carefully, very slowly, she raised her hand. The elder watched but did not move away. Yuna touched the soft fur of the elder's chest. She felt the ancient heart beating beneath her fingers. The elder closed her eyes and made a deep, rumbling sound. She was purring. The watching gliders began to move. They came down from the trees, one by one, approaching Yuna without fear. Some landed on the ground, nearby. Others settled on low branches. They surrounded her in a circle of wings and eyes and trust. Bomi chirped happily. This was family. This was Pack. When the camera drones finally found Yuna, they recorded a scene that would change galactic history. A human woman sat in a forest clearing, surrounded by hundreds of Venom gliders. The deadliest creatures unknown. Space had accepted her as one of their own. Darren watched the footage with tears in his large eyes. 20 years of research, and he had never understood. He had been looking with fear. Yuna had looked with love. That night, Yuna returned to camp with the Elder following behind. The ancient glider inspected the tents, the equipment, the strange two-legged creatures who had invaded her territory. She looked at Taiho for a long moment, then at Mira, then at Jiwoo. Finally, she turned to Doran. The Telavian researcher stood very still, all 8 arms trembling. He had spent his life afraid of these creatures. He had written papers about their danger. He had warned generations of students to stay away. The Elder approached him slowly. She reached up with one small paw and touched his face, just as Haru had touched Yuna weeks ago. Doran began to cry. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I did not understand." The Elder made a soft sound. Then she turned and glided back into the darkness, returning to her throne in the ancient trees. But she would be back. The pack was growing, and the impossible was becoming normal. Never Touch a Venom Glider, Part 4. The video had been viewed 8 billion times. Every news station in the galaxy played it on repeat. A human woman, surrounded by hundreds of deadly creatures, being accepted as family. It was the most watched footage in galactic history. Yuna sat in the station conference room, watching the reactions scroll across her screen. Messages of wonder. Messages of disbelief. Messages of hope. People were calling her the Glider Whisperer. Scientists were calling her a revolutionary. Some were calling her a liar. But not everyone was happy. Admiral No Sunwoo arrived at Research Station Horizon 7 on the 3rd day after the video went public. He was tall and formal, with gray hair cut short and eyes that calculated everything. He wore the uniform of the Galactic Union Military Research Division. "Dr. Park," he said, shaking her hand firmly, "your work has been impressive. Truly impressive." Yuna did not trust him. She had met men like this before. They smiled while planning something terrible. "Thank you, Admiral. What brings you to our station?" "Opportunity," he replied. "Great opportunity." He called a meeting that evening. Everyone was required to attend. Taiho, Mira, Jiwoo, Doran, and even Silith gathered in the large briefing room. The Admiral stood at the front, a projection screen glowing behind him. "The Venom gliders represent an incredible resource," he began. "Our scientists have analyzed Dr. Park's data. The toxin these creatures produce has remarkable properties." He showed images on the screen. Medical diagrams. Chemical formulas. Disease charts. The toxin can cure Valorian nerve decay. It can treat Telavian cellular degradation. It can slow aging in multiple species. The Admiral smiled like a man counting money. "We are talking about the most valuable medical substance in the known galaxy." Doran leaned forward. "You want to harvest them." "Harvest is a strong word," the Admiral replied smoothly. "We prefer to call it sustainable collection. Humans can handle the gliders safely. We would establish a careful, controlled operation." Yuna felt her stomach turn. "You want to farm them. Like animals." "They are animals, Doctor." "No." Yuna stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "They are not. I have lived among them. I have seen their families, their mourning rituals, their love for each other. They communicate. They feel. They think." The Admiral's smile did not change. "Your emotional attachment is understandable. But the Galactic Union has already approved preliminary harvesting licenses. Ships are being prepared. The operation will begin within 2 months. The room fell silent. Una felt cold. "You used my research," she said quietly. "I showed the galaxy that gliders could be approached safely, and you turned it into a weapon against them. Your research opened doors." The Admiral agreed. "We are simply walking through them." Taiho stepped forward, his hands clenched. "This is wrong. You know this is wrong. Lieutenant, I suggest you remember your rank." The Admiral gathered his papers. "The decision has been made. The harvesting fleet launches in 6 weeks. Dr. Park, your expertise would be valuable. We would like you to lead the handling team." Una stared at him. "You want me to help you kill them?" "Not kill, collect. There is a difference." "Not to them, there is not." The Admiral sighed like a parent dealing with a difficult child. "You have 1 week to reconsider. The pay is excellent, and your future career would be secured." He walked to the door, then paused. "Think carefully, Doctor. This is happening with or without you." He left. The silence that followed was heavy and dark. Mira was the first to speak. "Can they really do this? Is it legal?" Silith clicked unhappily. "The Venom gliders are not classified as sentient. Under current Galactic Union law, they are considered wildlife. There are no protections. But they are sentient," Una insisted. "I have seen it. The Elder understood me. She made a choice to trust me. That is not instinct. That is intelligence." "Then prove it," Doran said quietly. "Give them evidence they cannot ignore." Una looked at her friend. His 8 arms were folded, but his eyes were bright with determination. He had spent his whole life afraid of these creatures. Now he was ready to fight for them. She spent the next 5 days barely sleeping. She reviewed every piece of footage. She studied every interaction. She documented behaviors that showed clear signs of sentient thought, problem-solving, teaching, grieving, creating. Myra helped with the biochemistry. Taiho gathered testimonies from the team. Jiwoo provided medical analysis. Even Silith, surprisingly, offered legal guidance, but it was not enough. The Admiral had power, money, and political support. Una had data and determination. On the 6th day, she made her decision. She released everything. Every piece of research, every video, every document. She uploaded it all to public channels across the galaxy. But she added something new. Something she had been afraid to share. The morning ritual. During her 3rd week on the surface, a young glider had died from a disease. Una had watched the colony respond. They gathered around the body. They made low, sad sounds together. The mother refused to leave for 3 days. Other gliders brought her food. They touched her gently with their wings. Then, together, they carried the body to a special tree. A tree covered in small bones and dried flowers. A burial ground. A cemetery. The Venom gliders buried their dead. They grieved. They remembered. Una narrated the video herself, her voice steady despite her breaking heart. This is not animal behavior. This is culture. This is love. This is proof of souls. The galaxy watched. And the galaxy responded. Within hours, protests erupted on 12 different worlds. Scientists demanded recognition of glider sentience. Political leaders called for investigation. The message spread faster than any fleet could fly. Harvesting sentient beings is a capital crime under Galactic Union law. The Admiral called Una in a rage. "What have you done? You have ruined everything." "I have told the truth," she replied calmly. "The rest is up to the galaxy to decide." The harvesting fleet stopped. The licenses were suspended. A formal inquiry was opened into the classification of Venom gliders. Director Yim Hanna contacted Yuna the next morning. The head of the Galactic Union Xenobiology Division was an older woman with kind eyes and a voice that commanded respect. "Dr. Park, you have created quite a situation," she said. "I did what I thought was right." "Yes, you did." The director smiled slightly. "The inquiry will take months, but I believe the outcome is clear. The Venom gliders will be reclassified as sentient. Felix Prime will become a protected sanctuary." Yuna felt relief wash over her. "Thank you, Director." "Do not thank me yet. I have a proposal for you." The director leaned forward. "The galaxy is full of creatures we have feared and avoided. Creatures we have called monsters without understanding them. I want to change that. I want to create a new division. A first contact team for Category Black organisms." Yuna's eyes widened. "I want you to lead it," Director Yim continued. "Find the creatures everyone fears. Study them. Understand them. Show us what we have been missing." Yuna thought of the elder touching her hand. She thought of Bomi curled in her lap. She thought of Haru thanking her for saving her daughter. She thought of all the other creatures across the galaxy, hiding from the fear of species who did not understand them. "Yes," she said. "I will do it." The Admiral was transferred to a quiet desk position on a distant moon. The harvesting licenses were permanently cancelled, and Yuna began planning her next mission. The Venom gliders were safe, but there were others waiting to be understood, and Yuna would find them all. Never touch a Venom glider. Part 5. 5 years had passed since Yuna first touched a Venom glider. The jungle moon of Felix Prime was no longer a forbidden world. Research stations dotted the landscape, built carefully to blend with the forest. Walking paths wound between the giant trees, maintained by humans and gliders working together. Signs in 30 different languages welcomed visitors to the Felix Prime Sanctuary. Yuna stood at the edge of the main observation platform, watching a group of young scientists receive their orientation. They were nervous, excited, clutching their notebooks like shields, just like she had been years ago. "Remember," their instructor said, "patience is everything. Move slowly. Breathe calmly. Let them come to you." Yuna smiled. Her words now taught to every new arrival. Her hair had streaks of gray now. Lines marked her face from years of hard work under alien suns. But her eyes still held the same curiosity that had driven her into the jungle that first night. A familiar weight landed on her shoulder. Bomi was older too, her fur fading to silver around her muzzle. But she still made the same happy purring sound whenever she saw Yuna. "Good morning, little one," Yuna whispered, scratching behind her ears. Footsteps approached. Taiho appeared beside her, carrying 2 cups of tea. His uniform had more badges now, marking his rank as head of security operations for the Gentle Contact Initiative. But his smile was the same as always. "The new transport arrives in an hour," he reported. 3 researchers from the Valorian Science Academy, 2 military observers, and 1 very nervous cadet. Yuna took the tea gratefully. "Any problems?" "The military observers are worried about the gliders attacking. I told them what I tell everyone. If you stay calm, they stay calm." He laughed quietly. "They did not believe me. They never do until they see it themselves." Marriage had changed them both. The wedding 2 years ago had been small and strange and perfect. Bomi had glided down the aisle carrying their rings, to the delight of guests from 30 different species. Myra had cried through her entire speech as best woman. Even Doran had worn a special ceremonial sash for the occasion. Now they worked together every day. Protecting the creatures, Yuna had spent her life understanding. Mira appeared from the research center, waving a datapad excitedly. "Yuna, the synthetic toxin trials are complete. Full effectiveness. Zero side effects. This was the final piece of the puzzle. Years of research had allowed them to create artificial versions of glider compounds. The medicine could now be produced in laboratories without ever touching a wild glider. The cure for Valorian nerve decay was now available to everyone who needed it. "The Elder will be pleased," Una said. The Elder still lived in her ancient tree at the heart of the territory. She was very old now, moving slower each season. But she still received visitors, allowing researchers to sit with her and learn. She had become a symbol of everything the initiative stood for. "Actually," Myra continued, "Director Yim wants to speak with you. Something about a new mission." Una nodded. This was her life now. Travel to distant worlds. Find the creatures everyone feared. Learn their secrets. Show the galaxy that monsters were often just misunderstood neighbors. In 5 years, the Gentle Contact Initiative had successfully established communication with 14 previously hostile species. Each one had been labeled dangerous, deadly, impossible to approach. Each one had turned out to be intelligent, emotional, and capable of trust. The acid crawlers of Nexo 7 were actually farmers, cultivating underground fungi gardens. The stone giants of Marix Prime were artists, carving mountain sculptures that took centuries to complete. The void singers of deep space were poets, composing songs in frequencies only specially designed equipment could hear. And every one of them had welcomed humans into their worlds. Once humans learned to approach with patience instead of fear, the transport landed an hour later. Una watched the visitors disembark, noting their expressions. The Valorian researchers looked excited. The military observers looked tense. And the young cadet looked absolutely terrified. He was barely 20, with wide eyes and shaking hands. His uniform was freshly pressed, his hair neatly combed. He kept glancing at the trees like monsters might attack at any moment. Una walked over to him, Bomi still riding on her shoulder. "First time on Velix Prime?" she asked kindly. The cadet snapped to attention. "Yes, Director Park. I was assigned to shadow you for training purposes. It is an honor to meet you." "Relax," Una said with a smile. "We do not do formal here. What is your name?" "Han Junho, Director." "Well, Junho, welcome to the sanctuary." She gestured at the forest around them. This is where everything started. Junho stared at Bomi on her shoulder. The glider stared back, her tail swishing lazily. "Is that really a Venom glider?" The briefing said they were deadly. "She is," Una agreed. "Deadly to anyone who approaches with fear. But to family?" She scratched Bomi's chin. "She is just a sweet old lady who likes treats and warm sleeping spots." They walked together through the forest, Una pointing out the different species of gliders in the trees. She explained their social structure, their language, their seasonal migrations. Junho listened with growing wonder, his fear slowly transforming into fascination. They reached the clearing where Una had first met the Elder. Flowers grew here now, planted by researchers as gifts for the colony. Gliders moved through the branches, going about their daily lives, ignoring the strange visitors below. "They said you just touched one," Junho said suddenly. "Without any protection, without any training. They said you just reached out and caught one." Una sat down on the soft grass, just as she had done that first night. "Everyone told me they were monsters. Every warning, every protocol, every piece of research said to stay away, to keep my distance, to be afraid." Junho sat beside her, still nervous. "But you did not listen." "I looked closer. I moved slower. I listened instead of assumed." She pointed at a mother glider grooming her baby in a nearby tree. "I saw creatures protecting their families, not creatures attacking without reason. I saw fear responding to fear." A juvenile glider descended from the branches, curious about the newcomers. It landed on a low branch near Junho, tilting its head at him. The young cadet froze, his whole body rigid with terror. "Stay calm," Yuna said softly. "Breathe slowly. Let your body tell her you are safe." Junho tried to control his breathing. His hands were still trembling, but he forced himself to stay still. The glider watched him with large dark eyes, assessing, deciding. "Hold out your hand," Yuna instructed. "Palm up." An offering, not a grab. Slowly, shaking badly, Junho extended his hand. The juvenile glider hopped closer. She sniffed his fingers carefully. She made a soft chirping sound, questioning. Then, carefully, she stepped onto his palm. Junho gasped. The glider weighed almost nothing. Her small claws tickled his skin. Her wings folded against her body as she settled into his hand, and then she began to purr. "She likes you," Yuna said, smiling widely. Junho laughed. It was a sound of pure joy, of fear transformed into wonder. "She is beautiful. She is actually beautiful." Bomi glided down from Yuna's shoulder and landed beside the juvenile. The two gliders touched noses, greeting each other like old friends meeting again. Yuna watched with deep satisfaction. Another person learning the truth. Another mind opening to possibilities. Another link in the chain she had started forging 5 years ago. "Director Park," Junho said, his voice thick with emotion. "I understand now. I understand what you have been trying to teach the galaxy." Yuna looked at the young cadet holding a creature everyone had feared, seeing the same transformation she had seen in countless others over the years. The universe is full of wonders. Junho, creatures that seem dangerous are often just different. Species that seem hostile are often just afraid. She reached out and gently stroked the juvenile's soft fur. Sometimes the most frightening things in the galaxy just need someone brave enough to be kind first. Above them, the elder watched from her ancient branch. She was too old to fly down now, but her pale eyes still saw everything. She watched the young human learn the lesson that her friend, Yuna, had taught so many others. Patience, gentleness, understanding. The elder made a soft sound of approval. Then she closed her eyes and rested, content in the knowledge that her children would be safe for generations to come. In the clearing below, surrounded by creatures the galaxy had once called monsters, Yuna took Taiho's hand and smiled. This was her legacy. Not fame or discovery or scientific breakthrough, but a simple truth spreading slowly across the stars. Sometimes, you just have to be brave enough to reach out and touch them, and the universe would never be the same.